Hello, I'm Ron Irwin.
I'm Victor Olivo.
And I'm Richard Perry.
And we are
The
Three
Three
Amigos.
Amigos.
Yeah, we got a great show today. Our special guest in studio, Chick Vennera. He's an actor's actor. He's a star. He's a great guy. And we'll be talking to him in just a few minutes. But I want to start off today with just a little commemorative mention of a guy who passed away 12 days ago, Anthony Bourdain.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Anthony, everybody knows this guy. He did all these great television shows, which you can still watch, thankfully, on CNN. But this guy traveled the world and brought the world to us and to the rest of the world. He was a real person. He was out there. He was raised as a chef, but he wasn't hoity-toity. I mean, I saw him in one of those shows recently, sitting in a bar in Philly, having a Philly cheesesteak. You know, that's not exactly hot cuisine.
Yeah.
But that's this guy. He was the most real guy in the world, and a real tragedy that he had to pass. But he left a great legacy. So this show is dedicated to fun. Nothing fun about suicide, but there's something fun about a man who brought this much good to the world. So let's just give up a round of applause, shall we, for Anthony Bourdain, and may you rest in eternal bliss and happiness. Now, I've got some stuff to give away.
Oh, really?
I love it. Our first show, we're going to start giving stuff away. I mean, freebies right off the bat. You can't go wrong, will you? I mean, pay attention, folks. Listen closely to this. And, oh, by the way, for those of you who are just tuning in and you want to know a little bit more about the show, go to ronirwin.net. That's RONIRWIN.net. And click on the Three Amigos. You'll find out everything about everybody because we keep no secrets here. Our good friend.
Which be a burden.
Well, there you go.
At least for now.
Not for now.
Yeah.
But it'll happen. From our good friends at Splash Magazine, I have 3 books to give away. What books are they, Ron? Well, the name of the book is Elevate, An Essential Guide to Life. Okay. It's another wonderful how to get rich, how to get famous book that millions of people buy. Nobody gets rich or famous, but wait a minute. I want you to pay attention to this. The guy that wrote this book is Joseph Dietz. Do you know who he is? Joseph Dietz was producer of 9 Broadway plays, has some Tony Awards. He also happens to be the owner of one of the most prominent financial advice firms in America. He's won a Tony, which I think I said that already. But this guy's a billionaire. He knows what he's talking about. This isn't a guy that just said, I know what I'm going to write a success book and everybody will buy it and I'll be successful. I don't really care what happens to them. No, this is the real deal. This is a man who has actually lived it. He has lived the life. And he's got this book, Elevate, An Essential Guide to Life. How much does it cost? For you, if you're the first 3, one of the first 3, absolutely nothing. But here are the rules. Number 1, you have to send an email to bestradiola@gmail.com because we're modest. And that's what you're listening to.
What was that again? What was
Best
Radio.
Best Radio LA.
Good. Just to make sure.
At gmail.com. Okay. You send your information there. You got to be at least 18 years of old, 18 years of age, 18 years of old. Okay. We talk for a living, folks.
Same difference.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Hold it down. We got we got 18.
We got our first laugh.
Have to be 18 and you have to have an American mailing address. I don't know why, but you do. Anyhow, those are the rules. And this comes from Splash Magazine and our good buddy Joseph Dietz. The name of the book, Elevate, An Essential Guide to Life. So if you want to do more with your life, why don't you get the book and figure out how that can happen?
Step 1, get the book.
Get the book. It's
Step
free.
2, read.
It's free. Yeah. I want to give away a book, too. What should I do about that? We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, we'll get about that.
Okay, well, now, here's something else. Have you noticed the weather lately? Officially, tomorrow, it becomes summer. Now, I've noticed on the weather maps when I watch the evening news all across the country, it's hot. I mean, it's hot. 95 degrees the other day in Chicago, and believe me, the humidity's 90, so it's really miserable. Yeah. I used to live there, and that's why I moved to California. But it's hot.
Yeah.
Now, what's going to happen soon is you're going to be very, very dependent on that little machine called your air conditioner.
You know,
right?
That little thing that you mess with and Dad
and
tells
you know what
not to.
happens when you wait until, you don't do anything and the machine dies on you about, July 20th? And you call all your HVAC buddies. They'll say, call me back in October because they're all busy.
They're booked.
Yep.
They're booked. It's too bad, buddy. Open a window, get a fan. It'll be all right. You get to sleep by 1 a.m. You'll be okay. Well, don't do that. The way you want to take care of this is you want to get somebody that knows what they're doing to come out and check it out for you just to make sure everything's copacetic and you can make it through the summer without being miserable and uncomfortable. So I have a good buddy of mine. His name is Greater Nation. That's the name.
Greater Nation. That's his name.
Greater Nation, and and he's going to give you a service call, normally $99 for $79, if you just call him up and say, hey, I heard about you on this radio show, The Three Amigos, and I want my discount. Okay? You can call him up at
You don't
818-
even need to be polite. Just tell them how it is.
Yeah, just say, hey,
Give me
I
a
heard
discount.
about you guys on The Three Amigos. I want you to come over and check my thing. And I don't want to give you $99. I want to give you $79. I want to save $20 because then I can take The Three Amigos out for lunch, okay?
Beautiful.
His phone number is 81. You like that?
Oh, I love it.
818-446-8123. That's 818-446-8123. Call him now and just say, look, I heard about it on this dumb radio show. And there you have it. It is Greater Nation's the name of the company. You'll like the guy. 818-446-8123. And, why not? Have it, check it out. I'll tell you what. I know about this because this happened to me 2 years ago. I know the trouble, and I know how you can avoid it. And it's $79, folks, seriously, to keep your comfort and keep your cool for the rest of the summer. Give it a shot.
That's less than your car registration renewal,
You think?
right?
Much less.
Oh,
Much
come on.
less.
My stupid motor scooter costs about $130 now. It's ridiculous. One final thing before we get to our good friend Chick Vennera, who's been patiently waiting to come on and chat with us. I just want to talk about a little company. Guys, I know both of you guys have never really done anything in the stock market. I got to tell you, maybe you might want to think about doing something because you could make some pretty good money in the market. Honest to God, this is true. I can verify this. Some years ago, I took over a public company at 3 cents a share. I bought out what they call the control block, and I did a few things with it. It moved around okay. And while I was celebrating my good fortune in Tahiti, I got a call that the stock had hit $6, and I said, sell, and made a lot of money. So it can happen like that. There's a company I've known about for a while, Northern Minerals and Exploration, and they have oil and gas.
Yeehaw!
Oh, yeah.
Texas.
From Texas, and then they got someplace else. They got some gold, and they're beginning to do a little work on a prestigious resort down in Mexico. So they got all this going for them, and guess what? Their stock is a nickel. A nickel. The symbol is NMEX. They're on the OTC, so check it out, NMEX on the OTC. Now, I'm not telling you anything. I'm not making you any promises or any guarantees other than you should invest a little bit of time just checking it out. NMEX on the OTC, Northern Minerals and Exploration, and you can find out all about it. Just check it out for yourself. We're going to have a little music right here, and then we're going to introduce our good friend, Chick Vennera.
And cue in the music.
Okay, joining us now is a man who was in the original Broadway production of, come on, I kept laughing, Broadway production of Grease, Chick Vennera.
Correction. Thank you. I was in the original bus and truck company of Grease. Then we went to the second national company, and then I did Grease on Broadway when it became the longest running show on Broadway.
Okay, so you wanted to make sure it was good before you got in it all the way. I understand.
Double-checked it.
Yeah, you're a wise man, sir.
Yeah.
So there you go. And then you did the tour group too, didn't you?
Yeah, that's what the bus and truck is.
Okay,
It's a tour in the second
By the way,
national
when you
tour.
did the tour group, did you do the Pantages?
No.
No.
At that time, they played the Schubert. They came in. The first national company was at the Schubert, which
Okay.
is not even there anymore.
Of course.
And we did it at what was called the Aquarius, which used to be the old Moulin Rouge, which is now Nickelodeon.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's been a lot from the Aquarius.
Yeah.
The dawning of the age of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they had done hair there, and that's when it became the Aquarius Theater.
It all makes sense, doesn't
Right,
it?
it all
In
adds
its own
together.
strange way. But you got involved in performing at 3.
Well, I started taking dance lessons.
Well, that's a
3,
start.
And music lessons, I think, when I was 7.
Wow.
Was that something that you were interested in when at that age, or was it more?
The parents would,
Yeah.
to keep you off the streets,
Yeah,
they'd
yeah.
Put you in a dance
You have
class. And at
time,
that
go
time,
ahead
it was
and
like
dance.
one of those big things. And then the music classes, I started piano when I was like 7 years old. And then the school programs in those days had great music programs. And so you learned the instrument, and then they got you ready to play in the band, and then you'd play in the school band and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So then at that point, like the arts is sort of something that it's just your life. You're just
I
used to
enjoyed
It's
it.
not
I
even- yeah.
enjoyed it. I
Yeah.
enjoyed it, and it also was a way out of, I guess, a life I didn't want.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have idle hands. You have something to do.
So it was one of those
Yeah.
things where you just I liked performing, and I liked what was going on. I liked the rush of the audience. I liked the live performances, and then I went on to Pasadena Playhouse when I was 18 to study drama. One of the drama teachers at the high school said you should look into that. So I did.
Pasadena Playhouse here?
Yeah, it's 1965.
Oh, past. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's like the original, sort of. There's who's all in that, by the way?
Yeah.
At Pasadena Playhouse?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
God, a lot of people graduated from there. It goes back as far as Dana Andrews, William Holden.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah, I think Randolph Scott did a lot of plays there. I mean, this went back to the 20s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gilmore Brown was the guy who got the thing going. I was there in '65. It was like one of the last years that the school was there. And in my class was Kazi Costa, who I did Grease with, Sally Struthers,
Sally Struthers.
Bill Lucking, William Lucking, who's on Sons of Anarchy. Who else was in the class?
Wow.
Michael Margotto. Oh, Alias Smith and Jones. Ben.
Oh.
Ben Farine, I know.
No. God,
I
I
don't
can't
have-
believe I forgot his name.
Right, no, it just
I
kinda
actually did a
continued.
jag with him.
Okay.
Okay.
Ben. Sorry, Ben.
Yeah.
Ben
Today,
Doe.
or Ben.
No, interesting you said William Holden. Did you ever meet William Holden?
No. His son was in my class. He was a year ahead of me.
Here's a quick little diversion. You said it, and it just sparked the light. 1964?
Vietnam.
No, I met him at a bar in Hong Kong, and me and a bunch of other Marines and him drank the bar dry all night long. It was wonderful.
But
And
this
it was
is
on
when-
his credit card.
But it was your R&R while you were in the service.
No, I was on a ship. I was just offshore on shore leave, but we never made it back to the ship that night.
But you were still in the service.
Well, I was in the service. He wasn't. His credit card was good.
He was in the service of providing for the service.
Yeah. Service in the
So,
service.
it's an amazing thing. You go all the way to Hong Kong, you meet an A-lister. Who knew? Live in Hollywood? Well, whatever. So, well, now you started off doing stage work,
Yeah.
and then you moved west and started getting involved in TV and film and all that. Let's talk a little bit about that. What's some of your more fun moments that you remember?
Oh, gosh.
There's so many.
I loved going to work. There wasn't a show or a project that I didn't enjoy going to work for. I mean, it was always fun. Working with one of my biggest thrills was I did a film in Mexico called High Risk. It was one of those action films, and I got to work with three of my childhood stars. These guys were my heroes: Anthony Quinn,
Wow.
James Coburn, and Ernest Borgnine.
Oh, yeah.
And I got to work with all three of them in the same picture. It was a lot of fun.
And those are memories that stay with you forever.
Oh
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But
Coburn was my sponsor into the academy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look at that. So you've really now look at you know as well as anybody that there's a whole lot of people in the great city we call Hollywood, which is L.A., Burbank, and all that, that are striving to become successful, and most of them end up knowing how to make a mocha latte.
Nobody comes here to be a bartender. Nobody comes here to be a gas station attendant. Nobody comes here to be a waiter. I mean, everybody comes here because they're interested in the business.
Right.
How do you get to where you want to be?
You got to have. I've always said acting is a superhuman effort. This is what my teacher used to tell me. And the reason is you've got to have a passion for it. You've got to have a dedication. You've got to be willing to sacrifice, and you got to be willing to stay in there the whole time. And you've got to keep your attitude together. If you do not do that, you're going to become down. You're going to become bitter, and it doesn't work.
No.
It just doesn't work.
No. You show up for the audition with a bad attitude, it's out the door.
Oh, and they smell it.
Oh, yeah.
They'll smell it. They'll smell it. Like I remember there were times when I would come on an audition, and I'd go in and I'd had problems with road rage and people, you're trying to get in there in
Yeah.
traffic, and you come in and you're like, "Argh," and I actually lost the job because the person thought I was like an angry guy, didn't want to work with you.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful with that.
Yeah.
You got to check your attitude at the door, and then when you walk in, you got to just be open.
So I'm curious. So when you moved to the West, what were you doing to maintain, like as a job?
I'm a musician.
Oh, okay.
So when a lot of guys were waiting tables and doing stuff like that, I was playing in a band.
All right.
So
There
you're
you
always
go.
performing.
Yeah, and
which
that kept
means you
me.
always got-
That also kept me alive during Vietnam because when I went in, I started in Signal Corps and then won the Third Army Entertainment Contest, and then they put me in Special Services.
Oh, wow.
You and Elvis.
Yeah, no, Elvis stayed as a regular soldier.
Did he really?
Oh yeah, that was the big thing. He went to every day. He just did his job as a soldier. There was nothing fancy. That was the whole publicity thing that the colonel did. There's a great special right now on the HBO that talks about that Elvis thing.
Wow. Who knew?
Yeah, it's a two-parter.
Did you have like a favorite type of music that you enjoy playing the most, or?
I liked it all. I liked the standard American songbook a lot. I
Right.
liked that an awful lot. I liked. You got to remember too. During this period, the Beatles came out, and there were no
Right.
saxophones, and
Yeah.
so there were 4 guitars. So you had to learn a lot of the stuff that was hot at that time. Was a lot of the Latin bossa nova stuff that was going on.
Right.
You had to learn a lot of soul stuff because that was hot. So that's where my attention went to. But when I first came out here, I was looking for a job, and they had a thing over at the Musicians Union. Were for casuals, and they put it up. They'd need a sax player for this band or somebody for a country and western band. And so you'd go in, and then you'd meet the guys, you'd kind of play together, and then you moved on. So that's how I started out here.
Okay.
My membership from New York, I transferred the union out to 47 here in Hollywood, and
There you go.
Yeah, there you are.
yeah,
And
and I
then-
just started working. And then had been doing that, and then a friend of mine said they're auditioning for a traveling show called Disney on Parade, which was a dance. You know how they have the ice shows?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this was like a dance show the same way with all those big costumes and that kind of thing.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And I did. I was on the road for 2 years with that show.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I came back and worked in Vegas and Tahoe with the Raquel Welch's show for Sid and Marty Krofft. And then between the Vegas show and the Tahoe show, I went to New York because a friend of mine was doing a season of repertory work. And I was staying with another friend, and these 2 kids came that were friends of his and said, geez, you'd be perfect for the show that's playing over here. So I auditioned for the repertory show, and I went and auditioned for the other show. Did not get the repertory work, but landed that show that I auditioned for that those kids said, and that was Grease.
All right.
Funny how things work out.
Wow.
Yeah. So there you go. Wow, that's great. What did you think of the movie?
The movie was fun. It was a lot of fun. It was nice. It wasn't the original. The original was a little more raunchy.
Yeah.
Oh well,
But a little funny story. I was in. We met at the Schubert out here, and a voice because we were all meeting with the directors and the producers and the choreographer, and the cast was totally assembled. And from the back of the room, I heard, "Francis Vennera, what are you doing here?"
wow.
And I looked up and I said, "Hey, Mr. Casey, what are you doing here?" He says, "I wrote this show." Warren Casey, who is my freshman homeroom teacher, wrote the show.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
What are the odds?
Yeah, and the role of Sonny was based on myself and a guy from Chicago.
And look what we got here, a guy from Chicago.
Hey.
We're gonna start breaking
okay.
out in the song here.
Well, that's where the show originally was done.
What's
it was in
that?
Chicago.
Grease.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, Jim Jacobs and Warren Casey were both in Chicago at that time, and I'm trying to think of the name of the theater.
Schubert? No, not
No,
Schubert.
no,
Goodman.
No,
Guthrie?
no.
Okay. Well,
Anyway.
anyhow, they did it, and it obviously in part of the American
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
thing. What's your advice for people today that are trying to break into the acting career?
You gotta love it, and you gotta stick to it, and you gotta keep your attitude together. If you don't do that, forget it.
Yeah.
And actually kind of touching back on what you had mentioned earlier about, checking the attitude, going into the audition, being angry and everything. For those who are listening right now, if you're above the age of 13 or if you're under the age of about, I'd say 40, you probably are very familiar with a big cartoon that came out back in the 90s called Animaniacs. And so this is a personal, absolutely just huge blessing to be able to sit here with you, because if you don't realize it already just from hearing his voice, this man happened to play a very iconic character out of the Animaniacs. And if I could take a moment here just to kind of toss a little bit back and forth, you'll get an idea of who this is. You're just a real crazy bird.
What do you mean crazy?
Well, I'm just saying, Pesto, you're like, this kind of wild and fun and crazy bird.
What do you mean wild?
Like you let go and you have fun. And
Fun? You
Yeah.
calling this fun? Is this fun to you? Because it ain't fun to me. That's it. Come here.
And then it walks in the God patient.
I asked you when you knew you had made it, and you gave a very interesting answer. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I didn't have to go to the laundromat anymore. I bought my own washer and dryer.
Oh, we got the feet for that one. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know, we all have our goals.
Right? Washer and dryer is a very good start.
Wow.
Yeah, you didn't have to get all the quarters together. You didn't have to go to the laundromat. You didn't have to carry the soap.
Right? You didn't have to put them in like the big old change jar and lug that around, hoping that nobody's going to look at it and go, ooh, free lunch.
Yeah. Was that what was the job that was associated with that? Like
I had just finished Milagro, the Milagro Beanfield War. And
Oh,
I-
yeah.
And I bought my first condo.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, and that's that's when that's when I knew things had changed for me, because I had not only bought the condo because nobody could raise my rent anymore.
Yeah.
And I also had the washer and dryer.
'Cause
Wow.
I think people always think like a big break is when everyone knows who you are, but I think the break is
Yeah.
when you're like, wait, I can actually live.
Yeah. As a human being.
I'm okay. Yeah.
Well, you're starting to learn a little bit.
Yeah.
This gentleman, by the way, has done several episodes of Shameless, did some NCIS.
Yeah.
So we got some people here. I, on the other hand, have a face for radio, so we'll leave it at that. And-
I'm not going to say anything about that.
okay, that's a
I'm
good
not touching
idea.
Yeah, I'm going to leave it there.
Because you know,
it. Stay politically correct.
what is the most? Is there a one most memorable moment in your acting career that rings out to you, or has it just been many?
There's been a lot of them. I mean, I remember I was doing High Risk in Mexico, and Anthony Quinn had a scene. And after he finished the scene, the crew applauded him.
All right.
Wow.
And I did a TV show here called, I think it was called That's Life. It was about an Italian-American family with Paul Sorvino, and I had the scene to do, and I did the scene, and the crew applauded me.
Yeah.
Hey, there you go.
So,
Yeah, sometimes things just work out. I remember when I was 11 years old, I did a magic trick in front of about 8 people, and it worked out okay. But when I was done, I said, I'm going to do one more magic trick. I'm going to disappear from the stage forever. And they applauded me. He said, go.
The one thing about the
You
applause
had the exact support.
is that from now on, every time they don't applaud, you're thinking, oh, did I not live up to the last one?
Oh, no.
Right.
No, okay,
Nah.
it was a special moment.
That was just one of those moments that had happened.
I know it takes a good work ethic, because you think about people doing stage, which you've done a lot of. You get 8 or 9 shows a week,
Yeah,
and most of them are at night,
yeah,
and they're long,
yeah.
and you have to get there way before, and you don't leave right away after. And it's, I mean, this is hard work.
Well, half hour was 7:30. Curtain was at 8. You'd do the show. You'd be out of there by 11. You'd be back to the hotel. You clean up. You go downstairs in the bar, and you hit the after-hours joints. You sleep until noon. You hit the town. You visit what's going on, and you go back and do the show. It's a great life.
All right.
Sounds
Yeah,
pretty good, actually.
Yeah, it sounds really good.
Okay. Well,
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot.
obviously because you have that passion. And
But then when you come out here, you got a 5 o'clock in the morning call. It's a whole nother ballgame. I really had to make an adjustment.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
would you say was probably the hardest adjustment? Would you say it was just like the overall just change in time or just setting?
It was just a time thing.
Just a
Just a
time
time thing. Just had to get used to it again, and you got
Right.
used to it in a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
wow. What's next? Well, you actually, here's an interesting thing. Now, you've been for many years now running an acting school.
Yeah, I've been teaching.
And why don't you tell us a little bit about your school?
I run the Renegade Theater and Film Group. We had a place on Sunset and Gower. We were there for 6 years, I think it was. I did plays, we did showcases, we did workshops, plus the actual class, the acting lab itself, which was a 4-hour class. And then in 2016, our lease was up, and they were going to make that whole corner block a Gelson Superstore. So 3 theaters went out of business. The karate studio next door went out of business.
The,
The only
Middle
thing
Eastern restaurant?
I'm not sure if that's still there or not. I haven't been over there at all.
Okay.
So anyway, I had to relocate. So I wasn't sure if I wanted to get another big theater again. And then I thought, you know what, let me just teach. So I started teaching. And then I've been doing that now for 2 years. I've been teaching in North Hollywood.
Wow.
So on Tuesday nights, I'm at the Brick House Theater, and then Thursday nights, I'm at the Avery Shriver on Lancashire.
Oh,
Yes.
fantastic.
So
There you go.
I
That's close enough.
enjoyed the teaching, and it's been fun.
And-
And I don't have the headache of worrying about the shows and worrying about the upkeep. And it was like an incredible nut that I had to pay every month.
Right. You just focus on the work.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's it.
students.
There you go. So now you're happy. Recently, a person who this show is originating from the Sunset Gower Studios in Hollywood, and on this very lot, on Studio 9, I believe, used to be Deal or No Deal. And one of the girls that would stand on a stage with a box
Maybe in Markle.
was Meghan Markle,
Yep.
who went from being an actress to being royalty. Chick, on the other hand,
Oh, yes.
had a princess who wanted to be an actress, so you could never tell what you can do.
She actually succeeded because
She did really well. She did-
does
I know she
Bold
did
and the
some soap
Beautiful.
operas.
Yes, that's what she's been doing.
So she's still doing that.
Oh yeah, she's good.
so
She's
she's
good.
reeling
really
in the
good.
big bucks.
Yeah.
And she doesn't have to wave at everybody.
I don't think she ever used her title to get ahead. She
No,
was-
I know. She was very modest and humble about that.
Speaking of Meghan Markle, I did a series on this a lot
Really?
on Sunset Gower. Yeah, I did a show called Hail to the Chief
Wow.
with Patty Duke, Ted Bissell, Quinn Cummings. Oh God,
So you didn't have any problem finding the place then, right?
no. Except my well, we used to come in on the
The side.
Franklin game,
Yeah.
and then then we went in. And the funny thing is, when I did that series, I had my own place to park. I had my name on it, and my dressing room was bigger than my first apartment. It was fabulous.
Okay, well, things have changed a bit. I'd like to welcome you to the Three Amigos show here at Sunset Gower.
I have a quick question. So, in terms of teaching, what is the biggest obstacle for most students, you think?
Acting is a self-revealing art form. It's one of the most personal of all the arts because you're the instrument and the player.
Right.
So what happens is when you reveal a lot about yourself, it's an uncomfortable feeling sometimes. A lot of people don't want to go there. So it's my job to guide them to be able to feel free and safe enough to be able to do that.
Right. The vulnerability, sort of.
Yeah, it has to be there. And then once you're there and you understand what being moment to moment is, you're fine. But it takes some time. And I think Meisner said it takes 20 years to really become an actor.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, he was billing them for each of those years.
Yep.
He was teaching, so it helps. It helps. There's so much maturity.
We know. I got to tell you a story.
But it's not so much taking the class for 20 years. It's the learning and the experience and what's going on in your life.
Exactly.
The doing of
Yeah.
it.
You've met my daughter, Carrie.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, we're going to get into another area that it happens. Unfortunately, there's a dark side, too. And it happened with me one time. She submitted to something she got off of Actors Access or whatever. And we get a call one day. We want to come in. Want you to come in? And I said, okay, can we have the sides? And the lady on the phone said, oh, you don't need sides. All we need her to do is go into a dark room and passionately kiss an older man. And I said, could you wait on hold a moment while I call 911? But I know for an absolute fact, having been around that process, that there are parents that took their kids there to do that kind of thing. And that's one of the more horrific ones that I experienced. What are some of the cautions you would give to
Yeah,
people?
but you got to understand something. Was it the parent who wanted that kid to get ahead, or was it the kid?
No, it was the parent.
The parents.
So
course.
this is where the fault lies.
Of course, I understand
Yeah.
that.
You know,
And I've been in enough of those environments where I'm like, really? You're,
you got to be smart. I mean, the guild will protect you on a lot of things, but if you, I mean, especially now with this Me Too movement that's going on,
Yeah.
finally things are being straightened out. But if you understand that you're going to be looking for an audition, if it's a legit audition, you find out what's going on. But if it's an audition where they want you to go at night or they want something's going on, then you got to be a little careful. And then I remember there were a couple of girls in my class that had night auditions, and I had two of the guys from the class go with them.
Oh, good.
good move.
That's a good
Yeah,
idea.
very good.
And
move.
then and they turned out to be okay.
Okay.
It wasn't,
Yeah, well, stuff happens. I just say there is, unfortunately, because there's so much, there's so many people here that want it, and they'll do anything because they think they have to. They think, oh, that's the way you do it in Hollywood. Well, no, it isn't.
no.
Yeah.
No, it isn't. I mean,
Dreamers are easy to exploit.
In fact, people that fall into that trap,
They're the ones that are easily exploited.
Yeah.
right. And
Yep.
then what? You're now noted as a sucker. Yeah, basically.
And it's funny, you were talking about how is it the kids or the parents that are pushing? How old were you when you did your first production? Was that something you decided to do, or were your parents like, you have time to do it, and you've been practicing?
No, I tell you, my parents wanted me to do dance classes and they wanted me to do music classes.
Okay.
After a while, I kind of didn't want to do the dance classes anymore. And then after a while, I wanted to start playing my kind of music, which was rock and jazz and that kind of thing. So they put the seed there, but the rest is what I wanted to do.
Right.
And then the first stuff I did was a recommendation, and I came out to California with this is another funny story, with to go to Pasadena Playhouse, and it was on the summer program, and I went to this teacher because I started to really like it.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure. So I went to the teacher and I said, well, what do you think if I got it to be an actor? And he said to me, I have never seen anyone like you. You are really special. There's not going to be anyone that can do what you do. I really think you should go ahead. 20 years later, at a reunion for Pasadena Playhouse, I'm with a friend of mine, and I wanted to go and see this teacher. And I said, you know what he told me? There was nobody like me. He said that to everybody. They needed students in the school.
As long as you're paying, you're fine.
Yeah, but
that was. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that was an innocent.
But it changed your life. Like that.
Yeah.
It did what it was supposed to do.
Yeah, because then the production started going on, and as I was doing things there, and I was learning. I was green.
Yeah.
And it gave me an education of what theater was all about, what that whole world was all about. And then it took a few years of touring that when I went back on stage, I was ready.
Okay. So that was your first experience, Playhouse. It wasn't
Pasadena
you didn't do
Playhouse,
anything- Okay.
Yeah. I'd done one play in high school.
Right.
It was kind of,
Take it or leave it. No, I hear what you're saying. Wow.
but it was,
All right. So what's next? What are we going to be doing in the future?
I continue teaching. Last year, I think, exactly a year ago, Sony hired me to work with some of the stars that they had in Outlander. So that was like a big,
Wow.
yeah.
Oh,
really?
Cool.
So that was nice.
That's
coaching.
interesting. Sony hired me to work with some of the stars.
Right.
Humble that he is. And
Sony, just tossing that out.
I don't know if you know
Sony.
what they are.
Actually, for Stars,
big deal.
Sony owns Stars Network, and it's actually
Yeah.
for
Oh,
Stars.
that's right.
Yeah.
wow, that's great. Let's see. Your dad was a musician, right?
Yeah.
He was a band leader. Did that influence you at all? Did that experience, that
Yeah.
background?
Yeah.
Because that kind of rolls with the family.
It was one of those things, though. I got to tell you, we couldn't afford a lot of stuff, and you couldn't afford to go to certain places. But when you were the band, you went in the front door and you got into those places, and you got to see what that life was all about. And so that was like my ticket out of where I was.
Exposure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very inspirational. Yeah. That's great. So, what about people like going to school? I mean, there are acting schools, there are all kinds of things, and then there are places like USC, drama, places like that. And my question, and if you don't want to answer it, I understand it, but is it worth it? The 4 years of tuition at a prominent university to study acting?
If you go to school like Yale or Juilliard, it's worth every penny. But not everybody can get in there.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things where you got to really take a look at. But I've seen a lot of college dramatic arts programs where they have this program, but maybe one or two people will come out of it. I mean, it's like in the 50s and 60s, Northwestern was like the big place.
Right,
They had
right,
some
right.
great people coming out of there. Pasadena Playhouse produced an awful lot of good people. The Neighborhood Playhouse produced a lot of people. The American Academy produced a lot of good people. The Actors Studio produced a lot of good people. But those weren't universities.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm saying, because it seems like pretty much every university now has a drama department.
Yeah, if you're going to go to college, for my money, get an education.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
A technical degree. Right.
Get an education and something you can be useful to help you pursue your career.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense, and that's kind of what I was thinking. I think we're on the same page with that, but it's so tempting, though. And one of my daughters, actually, she's moving out in a couple of days with one of her friends who USC graduate in drama, but good news for her, she just got hired to do a movie in Norway. So why not?
Yeah.
You know, that's great. So you're on her way. She's going to make a movie in Norway. I don't know. Does she say Yumpan Yemeni? I don't know. What do you do when you go to... I don't know. I'm part Norwegian. I should know these things.
Right.
Okay, Chick Vennera has been with us. We're going to keep talking here for a little bit, but I just want to take a moment out to remind you that we have a couple of things to give away, and one is a book.
Oh, yeah.
that you need this book. You absolutely
You
need
absolutely need
this
this book. 100%.
because it's written by Joseph Deitch, who has got like 9 Broadway play credits as a producer. And the name of the book is Elevate, an Essential Guide to Life. Now, I'm going to give you this book. It's absolutely free for the first 3 people that respond. With your name, your mailing address, that's all. We don't need your mother's maiden name, social security number, any of that. Just your
But it
mailing
helps.
address and your name, and we'll give you the book, Elevate, an Essential Guide to Life. The first 3 who send me an email to bestradiolaat@gmail.com.
Yes.
And just say, give me the book in your email. That's it. And if you're one of the first 3, you're going to get it. It's a piece of cake. And while I'm at it, my book, 5150 the book.
Oh, yes.
I don't know what I want to give one away, but who should get it? Chick, any ideas? Have you ever heard about my book at all? Have you ever seen it? Okay. It's basically about my 13 months in Vietnam, which is, of course, a wonderful vacation. Time, not so much. And but it has its dark humor element to it because everything was fine. I was just numb until 3 days before I left to come home. I was sent to pick up a general. I'm a corporal. He's a general. But I got 3 days left. I don't care. So I picked the general up, and I couldn't help myself. I said, General, could I ask you an honest question, get an honest answer? And he goes, sure, Marine, what is it? I said, sir, with all due respect, what the are we doing here? That, by the way, was a different word. What are we doing here? And he said, well, in all truth, Marine, I don't know. I don't know. I just put in 13 months of this crap, malaria, dengue fever, mortar attacks, all this other shit food out of a can, pardon me. And
Stuff
you
food out
don't
of
know.
a can.
Yeah, that's what I said. Stuff from a can.
Stuff.
And you don't know why? OMG. So the next day, they sent me to Da Nang to deliver some stuff, and I was fed up. I just walked out. Who's going to stop me? I got 6 grenades, 100 rounds of 7.62 millimeter, and I'm going for a walk. Anybody want to talk to me about that? Okay, I don't think so. But I walk out, and I see this hooch with painted on the side of the hooch in the middle of the rice paddies. Nothing else. Nothing else. It says cold beer. And I have gone, I have found nirvana. Well, I found even more than beer. There was another treat that was awaiting me there that I didn't expect, but it was fine. And after we got acquainted and enjoyed our cold beer, I watched as 2 of our F-4 Phantoms were dropping napalm about half a mile away. Close enough I could feel the heat, and me going, because I am, after all, a very intelligent Marine, if they're dropping napalm over there, it's probably because the guys we call the bad guys are over there, and if they're over there right now, they'd probably rather be here with a cold beer with me. Sure enough, here come 2 NVA. And obviously things worked out because we're here chatting today, but that was just do you want a copy of this book? I'll tell you what, the first 3 people that send me an email saying, give me that book, I'll give it to you. But I want one other qualification. I want you to tell me the branch of service you served in. Doesn't have to be in Vietnam, just anytime. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and I guess Coastie. Okay. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, any of you guys. Just send me an email, bestradiolaat@gmail.com with an address, and I'll send it to you. First 3. How's that? So we're giving away all kinds of stuff here today.
A lot of books.
You get books. Get
Lots
books.
of
and-
literature.
Books on books on
Lots
books.
of knowledge.
And Paul Stanley is the guy over at Greater Nation, by the way. I just thought I'd mention that again.
Good old
Give him
Paul.
a call. He's going to give you $20 off his normal $99 walkthrough inspection. Look, folks, it's starting to get really hot, even in the studio right now, by the way. And you want to make sure it's working right. And this guy's, he did my stuff a year and a half ago, and I love him. He's the straightest guy I've ever dealt with in this business. Paul Stanley, Greater Nation. His phone number, 818-446-8123. 818-446-8123. Give him a call. Mention the show. Save your money. Our guest today, Chick Vennera, the superstar, star of the stars. What else do you want to tell us?
I was never a star. It was a working
Come on,
actor.
in our heart, you're a star. You're a star as a
I was
human
about to
being.
say, there's a good chunk of at least 10 years where you, sir, were a star, in my opinion.
Thank you. I always consider myself a journeyman actor. I always did whatever it was that had to be done. I mean, I love doing stage. I love doing television. I love doing film, mostly film. And I loved doing voiceover work. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was the Animaniacs thing. We got on it a little bit earlier. But,
Yeah.
well, that's not fun, though, because you don't have to worry about what you look like. It's just what you sound like.
Oh, it was fun. It took longer to go there to go to the studio than it did to shoot the stuff. They just happened like that.
Just done
It was
it
a great gig.
And so how did you land into the voice acting work? Because I know that's a little different usually.
There was a casting director out here by the name of Kathy Levin, who I did Grease with. And they had a Schweppes commercial that had to be done in Italian. And she knew that I spoke a little Italian. So I went in and I got the commercial. I didn't have an agent. So she told Rita Vennari, who was at the time Sutton Barth and Vennari, about me. And Rita brought me in. And I think she hired me because we had very similar last names. And she just broke me in. And she had me work with some of her best people every time I would go in there. And in those days, I don't know if they still do, but you auditioned right there. They had like 2 or 3 booths right there in the agency. And so I auditioned there. And that's when it first started. And about 6 months later, I landed my first cartoon series, which at that time was Foofer. It was this CBS Saturday morning show.
Okay.
And then while I was doing Foofer, I landed Milagro. And I thought, well, that's going to be the end of that. And they turned around and they did all the episodes that I was supposed to be in. They had all been written.
Mm-hmm.
I went and I did something like 7 or 8 episodes, right, just by myself, saying the lines and working with it. And Gordon Hunt, Helen Hunt's father, was a guy who like broke me in as the director there. The first time I worked.
Wow.
Yeah, and then that was at Hanna-Barbera.
Oh,
There you go.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a name
That's-
for
There
it.
you're talking.
Yeah, that used to be fun. I did 2 shows. I did Johnny Quest there too as well.
Johnny Quest.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Just the fun you've had.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can hardly
been an
argue with
adventure.
this. This is like, you're doing something you truly love and getting paid well for it. What could be better?
And then you said you also do some work with Sony for Outlander.
Yeah.
Is that like consulting, or how does that work exactly?
I coached their actors.
Oh, okay.
I brought them in, and they gave me the scenes that would have to be done, and I just worked with the actors. Yeah.
Interesting.
I was working with them for the stuff they were going to be doing on camera, and Bob Korf, who's a speech specialist with accents and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Right.
Big voice guy. They would work with him on opposite days that I was working with them.
Okay. And how does that arrangement happen? Was that someone you knew in Stars, or?
Yeah, my neighbor, Karen Bailey,
Yeah.
happened to be one of the vice presidents over at programming for Stars. And
Okay.
she used to come to the theater, and she liked the way that I handled a lot of the actors. And then she suggested some people to come to me, and I coached a few of those people, and they ended up getting, one of them got a series, and the other one got a Broadway show. And so it kind of put a feather in my cap. And
Yeah.
then the next thing you know, she knew she could hire me to work with some of the professional people that they had there. Yeah, so that's how that happened.
Tell us about Yanks. How'd that come about?
Yeah.
Oh man, that was a lot of fun. That was like my second picture, my first picture overseas.
Just the,
Marion Doherty had seen me do a play called Jockeys, and Marion Doherty at the time was one of the top casting people in town, and so she brought me in, and they were having trouble casting this secondary role, the role of Danny,
Yep.
and Richard and I knew each other because he was an ex-greaser, and when I was doing Jockeys, he was doing habeas corpus at another theater. And so
Right.
after the show was done, we had the same managers. And so he came over, and he would come over and he'd watch what was going on or catch the end of the show or watch a rehearsal. And that's how we got to know each other before we even worked together. And then I went in, I met John Schlesinger, and they gave me something to read. And it wasn't even my role, the role that I ended up playing. And Schlesinger saw me, and he liked the composition between Gere and I. In fact, they even lightened Richard's hair. And and that was it. That's how I got it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
great.
Yeah.
That kind of character too. Like, just for those who don't know Yanks, please go check it out. It's quite the story.
Tell us about it. Because I know you know a lot about it.
I know a lot about as far as Yanks go.
Yeah.
Like being a Yank.
No, I'm just saying. I know you did your research, and I'm just calling you on the carpet now.
No,
Let's do it.
absolutely. I mean, just the one thing. I mean, obviously, both Victor and I, we've delved into the world of acting, and
Yeah.
still kind of getting our feet wet. But just for the kind of character that you had to play in that show, and just working overall, I guess it looked like you and Richard Gere had really great just overall chemistry as far as whenever you guys were on camera together, everything that you guys would do together, there was a great feed, a great feel. But then your own character's unique character arc, what you were going through at that particular time, just, man, that I almost want to ask, like, the research, the emotions that you were probably feeling, what was going through
When you
your
do a
heart.
picture of that magnitude, I had just finished doing the pilot for Vegas with Robert Urich,
Right.
and my hair was down to my shoulders, and they had I had to go to New York for a makeup and costume test.
Yeah.
Right.
So they cut my hair, and I'd been wrapped. And I remember I came back here, and Duke Vincent called and said, "Chick, we got to do reshoots." I said, "Duke, I don't have any hair." And he says, "Don't worry about it. You were wrapped. We'll give you a wig." You couldn't tell the difference.
Yeah. Their wigs are
Really?
Yeah.
amazing.
The wig they put on me, you couldn't tell the difference. So then what happened was, John Schlesinger wanted me and Richard to go to talk to as many cab drivers and bartenders that were of that area in New York and in London. And then we also were sent to do research and sent to the motor pool, because my character Danny was working in
Right.
the motor pool, and the cafeteria where the GIs ate.
Right, in the mess hall.
Yeah, and so what happened was we spent a couple of days doing that, and then went back to New York, and then I came back here, did the reshoots, and then
And then there you go.
Wow.
and that was it. Yeah, but we spent a lot of time finding out, and then John would play films from that era, and we would see Battle Cry and all these things that were done during that time.
Oh, yeah.
And so you see the similarities of what was going on and all of that.
Okay.
Right.
Well, we got to kind of wrap it up for today, but I want to thank you very much for spending some time with us. It's been a lot of fun.
My
Yeah.
pleasure.
That's a good effort. Yeah. Chick Vennera. He is the man. Okay, we got just a couple of minutes left. By the way, speaking of voiceover, next week, Stephen Apostolina, another paisan. Did a little voiceover work with a couple of movies you may have heard of, Frozen, Madagascar. He worked with Pierce Brosnan and Tom Skerritt, and guy's got some street cred. Yeah. Did a little bit of
got
work.
some
So,
street
stories.
we got all these voiceover people here, so we don't have to do any work. They just come in and do the work. Here, you talk.
Yep.
Give them a script. This is fine.
you
And
go.
I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. If you haven't already picked up on it, we are giving away some books. I'm going to bring that up one last time in the last 3 minutes because I've been paid to do that.
Yes, there is one.
Hey, what's wrong with that? Huh?
No, it's
The
perfect.
pilot that flies you in the plane is getting paid. Would you like him to be doing it for free?
Free.
I don't think so. Think
exactly.
about that. Ever been to a doctor lately? Never mind. You can always lose weight going to the
bono
doctor. It's called
doctor
your
advice.
money sucks.
Yep.
Have a giveaway from our friends at Splash Magazines. And by the way, if you haven't seen Splash Magazine, take a look. It's really cool. They have 700,000 readers. They're not bad. And they're free online. So check it out, Splash Magazine. Google it. Google it. Anything
Google it.
now.
Pretty much Google it.
Mommy,
Flash
can I
magazine.
go to the play? Google it. Okay. A giveaway. 3 books. Elevate, An Essential Guide to Life. Elevate, An Essential Guide to Life. Written by a man who knows what he's talking about, Joseph
John.
Deitch. He has 9 Broadway plays he's produced. He's won a Tony. He's made billions of dollars as a financial advisor. This is the guy. If anybody's going to write a book about how to live successfully, this would be the guy. And so you can get a free copy if you're one of the first 3 people to send us your name and email and mailing address, your name and mailing address to
bestradiol@gmail.com.
bestradiol@gmail.com.
At gmail.com.
Best
It's as
Radio
simple
LA
as that.
at
18 years or older.
gmail.com.
18, yeah, got to be 18 or older because I don't know why. Maybe there's. Why would that matter?
I don't
Can't
know.
you have a
Plus-
14-year-old?
Plus, I don't know how
successful?
we could ever check for that.
Yeah,
So,
no.
I don't
Dad,
either.
Start getting ready.
Be
Anyhow,
honest, you guys. Honest.
give it a shot. We're going to go. And one last mention in the last minute here, Northern Minerals and Exploration. Folks, this is a company that's got tons of upside potential. It's a stupid nickel stock. What can you do? How can you go wrong with this? I'm not selling it. I'm not promising you anything, but I'm telling you you should look it up. NMEX, Northern Minerals and Exploration, OTC.
Yeah.
Just Google that, and you'll get all the information about the company, and then you make a decision. The first thing you got to do in any life decision, whether it's acting or investing or anything, is get the information.
Yeah. Knowledge
Right?
is power.
And it's from my home state of Texas, so why not?
And well, now I'm worried.
Yep.
It was looking good there for a while, but well. Oh, well, they are working on a resort in Mexico, and we are. The Three Amigos. So why not? I think we're going to be wrapping it up for today, and I want to thank you all for tuning in. Hope to see you again next week. Same time, same place, wherever that might be. I'm Ron Irwin.
I'm Victor Weebo.
And I'm Richard Perry.
Have a good day.